Another
So that's
thing that I like more about the Bible is that there's some really good poetry, and I like the apocalyptic books, especially the Book of Revelations, just because it's trippy and it's kind of like a fantasy book because there's a three-headed dragon and a sword coming out of Jesus' mouth and all that kind of stuff.
yeah. I know like the last end of the Quran. There's like chapters that are only like one or two sentences long.
Hmm.
It's like okay,
Yeah,
that
the
was a chapter.
there's no attempt at story structure or anything like that in the Quran. It's structured differently than the Bible that way in that the Bible is more of an anthology of different books and different styles from different authors. And sometimes if you're talking about the Gospels, for example, it's the same story from four different perspectives. And then, like we were
Mhm.
saying, there's poetry, there's semi-historical stuff, there's all the trippy apocalyptic stuff.
Yeah, it
And
seems
yeah,
like
the Quran is like a list of
rules and
yeah,
regulations.
a list of rules. This is what you should do, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it seems almost entirely a list of rules and regulations. I know in certain points they do pull some Bible references, like some of the references from the Old Testament, and some of the stories, kind of in a super truncated form, and they'll make references to those things. But I don't know if the Bible is as repetitive and rigid as the Quran is.
I don't know. I mean, it kind of seems pretty similar pretty similar to me. It depends on what part of the Bible you're talking about, I guess. Maybe if you look as a whole, it might be that way. But if you look at the Old Testament, for example, that's really fucking rigid. I mean, the New Testament is way less so, and that's all the Jesus part.
Well,
But I
the
mean,
Old
it's
Testament, at least, you have some storytelling and narratives going on,
mhm.
and historical accounts and things like that, um, amongst the different characters of the Bible. Because I know both the Quran and the Bible cover Moses. I know the Bible goes into much more depth in Moses, and some of the Quran also covers the flood and Noah's Ark. I feel like the Bible is a more in-depth account of some of those stories,
Yeah,
whereas the Quran just kind of lightly touches on some of those things.
yeah. And that's part of obviously the Quran is, I think, roughly half the length of the Bible. It's only 500 pages or so.
Well,
And
how big
and
is the
be
Bible? I swear the Bible has to be bigger than like 1,000 pages.
It probably is a little, it might be, I don't know, 1200 or so. Actually, I'm going to look that up. How long
By the
is the
page
Bible?
count.
Yeah, it's definitely over 1,000.
It's a pretty big book. Lots of pages.
Um, oh, it's telling me the number of verses. I don't need to know here we go. How many pages? Bible. 1,200 pages.
Yeah, so it's like a copy of The Way of Kings or something.
Yeah, it's like a long ass fantasy book, like a Malice book or Way of Kings book or some Wheel of Time books and Song of Ice and Fire books.
Yeah, so it's basically on par with a major fantasy film,
Hmm. That
which
is a good
means
way
it's
of
probably like 35 plus hours
yeah. Yeah, that is a
in
good way of
audiobook
looking at
form.
it. It's more like an elaborate
Yeah,
epic fantasy as opposed to like I don't know. I don't know what kind of fiction the Quran would be good to compare because there's short fiction, but often short fiction is more exciting.
Okay. One thing about the Quran, it's from a single author.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
There
So
are
maybe
many
that's why
different,
it seems very like super structured in that way.
yeah. I mean, there are pros and cons to that too. It depends, because people can perhaps I mean, I'm sure Muslims have been arguing about the different ways to interpret certain passages of the Quran just as much as Christians, but and you know, some Christians believe that the Quran was literally written by God, of course, too, so they think that the Bible only had one author too. But you know, theologians and Bible historians and people like that tend to agree that it was a variety of different authors over a long period of time who put it together.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Because I know the Quran um, just feels like it's reinterpreting the Bible with a more strict code of living life in a particular way.
Yeah, and there isn't. Well, wait, no. Muhammad supposed to be a divine figure?
I don't know. I don't think you're supposed to like depict them or anything, but um,
Because it seems like I was gonna say maybe he's the Jesus of Islam, but it's not really.
no,
He's
I,
not
I
the.
don't think
He's
it's
more of
like
like
that.
the crusading warrior. Jesus was like a mostly well, not perhaps not pacifist, but very like not violent, more political revolutionary perhaps.
Yeah, they had different roles in history, that's for sure, and they were
Yeah.
depicted very differently. Because forgiveness in these two religions are very different.
Hmm.
Um, because of course, I think Islam is probably closer to Judaism than it is to Christianity.
Yeah, I would say so too. Like because it doesn't because Jesus isn't divine which is the same as Judaism. I think that's the biggest reason.
Right. One of the other things, uh, do and I wasn't very, maybe I just was not paying attention too much. I do know they do cover the story of Moses, and I really didn't. Do they also follow the Ten Commandments, or am I like mistaken that they don't?
I don't think so. I don't think they have the
Because they
Ten
do
Commandments,
mention Moses and
but
the.
yeah, they do have Moses and other Bible characters too. I marked down this part here about Abraham from the Bible as well.